I don't know how to generalize that, but like I really think that if any company haven't already like figured out like what how does this change, this technology change how they see the future of their industry or their product space. If they haven't figured that out, then they're probably in trouble. And if they are taking kind of a gently approach, they're probably in trouble.
Hey, Luca here. Welcome to a new episode of the Refactoring podcast, where every 2 weeks we interview a world-class tech leader. Today's guest is Darragh Curran, CTO of Intercom, which is one of the world's leading customer service products with more than 600 million users. With Darragh, we talked about how AI poses at the same time an existential risk and an incredible opportunity for Intercom, and how this led them to the decision of creating a completely separate product and deflect most team resources to it. Then we discussed how AI is being adopted inside Intercom itself to achieve Darragh's ambitious goal of doubling the team's productivity. And finally, we explored Darragh's own role as CTO and what he believes he needs to get right to make all of this happen. So let's dive right into the action. Welcome, Darragh, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks so much. Excited for this.
So, Darragh, you are the CTO of Intercom, which is one of the world's leading customer service products, serving more than 600 million users. And you've also recently launched a separate product called Fin, which is an AI agent for customer service. And we will talk about this. So, I guess we can say that you are at the forefront of this AI transition, both as a tech leader and as someone who is building a product in a space that is clearly being turned, let's say, upside down by AI. Because customer service, I think it's one of those spaces that have the highest expectations when it comes to what AI can do. So, my first question is, how has Intercom been transformed by AI so far, as a product first and as a team second? What has the journey been like?
It's been a wild one. Let me try to tease this apart a little bit. So, just background context, Intercom's 14 years old. We started with this mission of making internet business personal. Like, online business was clunky and it brought scale but stripped away the human side of it. And
yes,
Intercom aimed to bring that back and like put an end to like the kind of jarring experience around like no reply mails or your ticket number thing. Try to put a human back in, make it personal, make it feel real.
Yeah,
and we've been at that for a long time. And customer support was always part of that, like a huge part of that. But Intercom had success in many parts of the broader customer experience, and early days sold to or for many years sold to like marketing teams, sales teams, product teams, research teams, and support teams, and success teams. And like that was both like a weakness and a strength. A couple of years back, we, in this post-COVID kind of sugar high, and crash.
Yeah.
We realized that, we were trying to be all the things, and we kind of picked a lane and focus on support. And in parallel, or like almost coincidentally, that was near or just before the start of this generative AI kind of revolution.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember your exact question, but like, how did AI change our product or change it? Like, the interesting thing is we always had this vision of AI being like transformational in customer service. And we'd, for many years before, let's say, GPT 3.5 or ChatGPT, whatever, for many years before that, we'd been building on like prior generation, like language models and different technologies, and had, like, the way I would summarize it is that we had a small number of edge cases almost that got really extreme success, but with a lot of work. And, so but it was always kind of limiting it. It felt like a great outcome would be if you could maybe handle like 30% of your volume. That's
Yes.
what the old thing. And then this step change or revolution with Gen AI made us realize that the ceiling is now, closer to 100%, and like on a trajectory where, we can very confidently say that, in X years' time, 90% plus of volume in this industry should be served with AI. So,
Yes.
so this like big step change in like technology capability and the trajectory of that was what, um, we'd been longing for that and trying to find that for years, but it was when, as soon as that became apparent, it enabled us, and very quickly, to, okay, this is the time now. Let's pivot hard into this, and we
Yes.
were, well positioned with like a pretty a small but strong AI team at the time to really leap on this, and that's where Fin emerged from.
Yeah.
So, Fin went public the same day, effectively, as GPT-4.
Yeah.
So we're, right on the edge of this thing.
Yeah,
And then,
I wanted to ask you about Fin because I mean I have so many questions from product point of view, tech point of view, team, and so on. So first things first. I mean, if I think at products that have tried to take advantage of AI, most of them are like bolting AI to what they're already doing, right? And in a way that
yeah,
is more incremental. And it feels like, from the outside, AI could be easily like an incremental upgrade to what Intercom was already doing, right? While instead it feels, if you go on Fin landing page, it's a completely different product. You almost never see that it's an Intercom thing. So you went the other way, that is, let's launch something that is separate, that is different. So walk me through your reasoning about this, and also is the team separate? I mean, it's how do you
right.
handle this? Yeah.
So there's a couple of things going on here. First things first, we have, with Intercom, have a legacy along,
Yeah.
like I say, 12, 14 years old, and reasonably well known in the market, but for many different things to many different people. So that's one part. Like we felt like we wanted a sort of a clean way to present to the world of on what Fin is, and not muddle it up too much in, oh, it's a feature of Intercom.
Yes.
Uh, Another important consideration is, like, Fin as a AI customer agent, it works on, it can work on any platform. It doesn't have to be coupled with Intercom under the hood. So that's an important thing as well. And if we present it to the world as Intercom first and foremost, then it brings the baggage of, like, oh, that sounds good, but I'm not changing,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole platform. So a couple of things, really. And then, we continue to have, like, I think this is more, I don't know, philosophical or something, but like, Fin is way bigger than Intercom, and
Mm.
so, like, I think it being like a subsection of Intercom undersells the significance of it, and yeah, so giving it its own brand, its own home, made sense. But there's trade-offs there as well. Like, starting something from zero is hard. In terms of the team, like, we're all one company. There's a lot of shared systems and platform.
Yeah.
Um, we and we're trying to leverage the benefits of that too. Like, we're able to run, and have for many years ran, like a very high scale system, lots of customers, huge amount of traffic, and a large team as well. So, sort of, the story of Fin has been, it started small with a small team, but had the benefit of this army of reinforcements that it could
Yes.
draw on, and like the kind of core Fin team has simultaneously grown by hiring and by internal hiring, and so that was I think a strength, because you're hiring internally people who have a huge amount of like Fin and Intercom context, but also business domain context too. So
Yeah.
that enabled us to really ramp up the investment fast. I can't remember the numbers, but at some point we sort of made this determination that, like, from a investment point of view,
Yeah.
70% of our allocatable people should be on Fin, more or less, and
Oh, wow.
and 30 on Suite. Just as at this point in time, that's the approximate mix that we think is appropriate.
Yeah. So the reasoning was what you said before. That is, we believe that Fin's potential, and so the potential for AI powered customer service and autonomous bots is way bigger than Intercom itself, and so it deserves to be a separate product as opposed to a feature of the main suite, of the main platform.
Yeah, and the important point that, like, it'll work on any platform, so it has to not feel tightly coupled to that thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is the first angle on AI that is about the product, right? And then there is, of course, the angle of AI impact on you, on Intercom as a team. And you have been very vocal about AI productivity gains. I remember a blog post from you setting this goal about getting like 2x productivity from AI. And I remember you saying that even if the progress stopped here in terms, I guess, of frontier models not growing anymore, we could eventually like get twice as productive. So first of all, how is it going, and what does it take to get there to you?
So it's going well. Like, I'm someone who's like simultaneously always very optimistic and ambitious, but self-critical. So it's going well, but I think
It's a
we've a lot
great
of work.
combination. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a curse. So, like, maybe very quickly, like, I think there's really good ambition and excitement around the team. And when I say team, I say like the R&D team, like that's engineers and designers and researchers and all the wonderful mix of people. There are pockets of like really excellent results. We have experimented with various systems that like are fully agentic and take toil away from us. We have like designers no longer kind of blocked or bottlenecked on getting time from an engineer to fix some of the like real polish that make a product great. We're seeing like numerically, like there's on this topic, there's like a, I don't know, contentious kind of topic subject on how you measure this. There's a lot of like asterisks as you would put on it, but directionally, I want us to double the like PR throughput per employee in our R&D org, and we're up from 6 months ago. We're up about 25%, and like from when I sent that memo, it's about 10%. So 10 weeks ago, 10%.
Yeah.
I think that's like okay, but not yet like reassuring me that we'll hit this goal in the timeline that we want. However, it's also like, and I'm sure any kind of change of this nature is shaped in this way. Like, it's, I think about 20% of the people who are really perhaps pushing or pioneering, and then the rest, it's not that they're not participating at all, but there's just a meaningful gap between. And I think one really interesting thing that potentially dig into is just the nature of behavior change in a big team, and also in particular with use of AI. One observation I have is like a lot of the like my mental model for this is like a wonderful new tool that, if mastered, has amazing upside for us, right? But the actual use of the tool is often opaque amongst team members. Like I will see the pull request you create, which is code. I won't see how you used your IDE or your AI agent or whatever else you use to get there. And that makes it hard for me to learn from you, or hard for you to give me feedback on how I'm using the tool. So I think there's some fundamental challenges in the kind of how quickly an organization learn.
Yeah. So there are, of course, measuring the impact of AI in coding or in software development lifecycle is a very hot topic right now, and it feels like there's no consensus on how to get it right. I mean, on one side, there are people who say we shouldn't measure the actual like usage, but just the output. As you mentioned, maybe we are producing more PR, so we are creating more outcome for the business, while others are saying yes, but how do we know if they're actually using the tools? I mean, if they're actually helpful, if we are not able to track this usage. So were you able to like attribute the fact that, for example, this plus 25% of throughput is through AI, or did you speak with the teams and there are like tools that are more loved and workflows that are widely adopted when it comes to using AI?
Like I think it's very hard to very strongly attribute stuff here, but there are some things you can read into, like, and one offhand comment is like, if people are 25% more productive and it's for a different reason,
it's good.
I'm happy to.
Yes, don't care. Yes,
like I'd like to understand it, but I'm happy. And actually, a common sort of pushback in this space is also that, at which I agree in spirit, but also disagree with, but just that, like, hey, writing code is never the bottleneck, and it's often the dynamic within a team that throttles your speed in some way. And like the small examples there, I think, are good, like the designer who spots a little bit of a rough edge in the product. In the old world, that's at best they will manage to interrupt an engineer and convince them to do the thing, and maybe have one or two back and forths where they ask the engineer to fix it, but it's not quite right, and they have to refine it, and all those back and forths are like broken flow and focus, and so that the writing the code part took 3-5 minutes, whatever, but it the back and forth is like happens over multiple days sometimes, whereas now that designer can get that outcome immediately without bothering the engineer. And so it's the but I what's interesting is that, like, the tool unblocks that, like, even though maybe writing the code isn't the bottleneck, it's the coordination around it that is, and it can unblock that. So in terms of attribution, like, all the tools here are kind of probably getting better here. But like there's a spectrum of type of like AI work here, from like, hey, I'm using some intelligent IDE that can like predict my next character or token or whatever, like tab mode or whatever, right the way to like somewhere in the middle where I'm maybe with Claude Code kind of guiding it to do a certain thing, or at the far extreme where there's these agentic systems that are finding the work, whether that's like bug reports or errors, or we've some fairly successful work that just deletes dead code, like, and that that ought to be an easy task. Sometimes it's messy, but just getting that out of the way makes it easier for everybody. So anyway, that spectrum, and then it on various parts of it, it can be hard to attribute how much, but I guess the numbers also don't lie, like on the edges, like the outliers we see if only we could replicate the outliers across the whole org. We've already got 2x in people who've kind of, seen huge benefit in like LLMs helping them. A lot of the work of an engineer is, uncovering the context behind how something works or why we made a change, and finding great speed ups on that part, and then great speed ups on making changes or writing tests. So like I'm more convinced than ever that the kind of what I set out to say, that like, hey, this 2x is possible. But the journey there is really, really hard, because it's like a lot of behavior change and like learning, and it's a moving kind of, the tools are constantly evolving too.
And to me, as you said, of course, there are many different workflows, many different ways of taking advantage of this. But to me, what feels the most interesting is, rather than just saying, you take an engineer, he keeps doing what he's doing today and it's just faster. It's more interesting to me to think about what you said, for example, about designers, but maybe it's not designers, it's the PM. I mean, if there is a small tweak to be made, they can just do it themselves and maybe fire the PR themselves for review by engineers, which unblocks, a lot of people, saves a lot of time of coordination. So this is what you're saying. A designer jumps in if it's a small thing. They do it in, I don't know, in Cloud Code, let's say, and they create the PR, and then the engineers review it, and then my cat jumps in as well.
Even cats like it. Want to know what's going on with AI. So that's happening today. And another kind of category of work here that I think is really interesting is like, or like, this is kind of an observation on humans in general. Like, often we're limited by our own beliefs of what's possible or not, or how hard something is or not. All these AI tools kind of question some of those beliefs or constraints. And like, I have a couple of examples that are coming to mind at the moment, but like, maybe I'll give one or two of them. One of them, and this is not like super interesting, but a couple of weeks ago, an exec meeting, our CEO decided, hey, we want to launch a page tomorrow that speaks about our like $1 million guarantee for Fin. And like, okay, launching a web page in a day, that's not actually hard, right? It's just HTML. But when you want to simultaneously do that, but also maintain this high bar for design, which Intercom strives for, it starts to get hard. And like the conventional sizing of that will be, okay, that's like a couple of days or a week if we just drop tools and everything else. But it forced the team into this mode of like, okay, this is crazy. Like, we're going to have to either cut corners or try something different. And they tried something different and used, various AI tools to create, a brand and design aesthetic that was satisfactory, and implement a page. And again, not super interesting, but the availability of these tools sort of raised the ceiling of what we believe we could shoot for, rather than just saying straight up no, or making some bad trade-off on like quality. And then, another example, again, one of our engineers, Miles, was doing work on our planet scale migration, and there was a tool, I think, relating to processing bin logs or something that was quite low level that needed to be high performant. And he understood the domain. He felt there was a missing tool, felt it needed to be written in a performant low level language, which he hadn't experienced in, I think, either Go or Rust or something. But was an expert in the problem and could guide in a short number of hours or a day or two, like a really high quality tool that did the job. And, if your task was to do that, but simultaneously learn Go or Rust, now now you need many days or weeks to do that. So you'll find you'll accept a different path that won't be as quick. So I just love conceptually that these tools like can remove some of the self-limiting kind of behavior that we have on ourselves.
And you think, for example, you mentioned rewriting this service in a different language, in a different, and might be this time it's a language, maybe a different framework or something that anyway that your engineers don't have a lot of knowledge about. Do you think that it's okay to give up some level of control on these things as long as you're an expert of the problem, right? And so you can guide, but then maybe you don't know the implementation details, the internals of this thing that is now in Rust and you're not familiar with, but it's okay because maybe you have a full suite of tests, you're instrumenting the code. So you are in the camp of saying it's okay that we give up a little bit of control on the code that is now written more by AI, and we don't have to be 100% masters of the technology beneath anymore.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like I think we do need to be masters of the technology below. And I'm certainly not excited about a world where we kind of stop caring. Like, you know, I'm sure you probably listened to DHH's recent Friedman podcast. I just love how at the extreme he is on, like, you wanting to chisel every character, and just the beauty of it all. I love that, and I'm like not quite at that extreme, but I do think that you need to care about the internal quality of your systems, and AI doesn't mean that you have to give that up. It perhaps even heightens the need to give a shit, because I think things can get unwieldy pretty quickly if you just let this prolific thing, spit out a lot of code. So but it kind of depends. Like the example you called on there, for certain things, if the interface is well designed and you can test it well, like I've personally been in this case where, like, hey, I need a bash script that does this. I'm like, I am not an expert in all the command line options and all these things, but I can write tests around it. I can be pretty happy with my margin of error or whatever, and I stopped caring. I'd be like, okay, that looks about right. I can follow it. But if I had to write that, like, said expression thing or something, I'd be like taking a while. So I think there's a certain level of abstraction that you can kind of just be okay with. But that'll depend on each kind of situation.
Yeah, it probably depends on the level of abstraction, if you ask me. I mean, I have no opinion. I mean, I'm conflicted about this because on one side I understand DHH's take about, I mean, I'm one of those guys that like to, chisel every character. But then, I mean, I sometimes I wonder whether it's our own fixation as crafters, right? But at some point it doesn't make business sense, right? You made the example, we rewrite something in Rust. I mean, maybe you have other people who are very familiar with that on the team, I don't know. But let's say even if you had not, the thing works, it's maybe 10 times faster, it's well tested, I don't really understand Rust. Should I care about this? I mean, I don't have an answer, but it makes me wonder, right?
Yeah. Like that Rust example is also like kind of a one-time, very fit for purpose tool that, like, you're not maintaining, isn't part of a big thing. Get the job done and move on. And also I'd imagine if it breaks, it's a process you can start again and whatever. So there was a lot of conditions there that made it well suited. In our code, but our GitHub repos, like, we've largely a monolithic architecture with a Rails application and then JavaScript front end, which and each of those is multiple millions lines of code, like more than anyone can get in their head. And before all the AI tools, on such a big system with so many contributors, for better or worse, you already have those problems of, like, the internal quality of any software. And it's not just quality, but it's consistency or strong, or like, it's almost like an archaeology project going through the code break. Oh, that was our strong opinion in 2015, and it's quite different today. My hope, like, this tension between like many companies like Intercom have this tension between relentless desire to bring something new, more, better to the customer,
Yeah.
and then maintaining the carry cost of the software and the complexity and improving that.
Yeah.
My kind of hope is that we can use AI to soften that tension a little bit as well, where like it perhaps becomes cheaper to standardize like a blessed way of doing a thing, and of maybe evolving. Like there's a lot of work that like is necessary to get this clean system, but adds very little customer impact and often doesn't happen. But perhaps that can be done quite cheaply with AI. So you're able to keep the standards simple and consistent, without endless refactoring by humans.
Yeah. Do you find that when you try to use AI on the big systems, the legacy systems, so millions of lines of code, it becomes less useful and it grasps less context because it's too much, it's too stratified, or is it useful anyway?
Like my personal first-hand experience is relatively limited. Like I'm unfortunately in more meetings than in pull requests, but like I have deliberately spent a good number of weeks writing. And actually, like my early conclusion was that the tools, and like Claude Code in particular, I thought was excellent. Like sometimes a little slow, and like it's amazing how impatient we get with these magic tools, but amazing at finding the context that needed. So like I heard a lot of people make that claim, and I'm sure there's some truth to it. But with in our case, pretty complex code bases, I think there's enough order in them that these tools are able to find like the right insertion points. I've definitely seen them get tripped up, but I'm not even certain that when they've gotten tripped up, it's purely a function of like code base size. It's more like, hey, there's overlapping concepts, and like the name, like it would trip up a human too. So there's like only so far you can expect.
Yeah. So far we have discussed about like the specific workflows, the specific use cases, but I'm also curious about how you see your role as CTO in driving this. I mean, how you're working to figure out what's the best usage of AI, trying to drive it. I mean, how is it right now? Is it more like a bottom-up experimentation among the teams, or you're also creating guidelines for everyone to use?
It's very much a work in progress. So like the role I think I've played first and foremost is like setting the ambition and the tone. And part of that is also just making it very real. Like this is not like, oh, wouldn't it be nice? No, this is going to happen, and we're going to be deliberate and forceful in trying to do this. So setting tone and ambition. Also, like I think it's a fairly obvious thing, but surprisingly, many companies struggle with this. But if you kind of push for this thing, you also have to remove any barriers in the way. So like we've been very deliberately permissive about tool use. Like you want to use Cursor, great. Want to use Claude Code, great. Augment, whatever. There's like very you need to be quite supportive there. And then no one's figured this out, so it's like a learning, like it's a constant learning process. So you need to be listening to what's working, encouraging people to share what's working. I think for anyone who's more in a manager role, more than ever, I feel getting hands-on experience yourself in the environment that people are working in. Like I kind of philosophically see the manager's role as like, shaping that environment for people to do great
Yeah.
work, and this is a prime example of that. So yeah, there's lots of bits, but largely like so far there's been just pretty great bottoms up sort of activation around
Yeah.
this, and some great examples shared which inspire others, etc.
Yeah.
But I do think that we'll have to make some tweaks to if we want to take this goal very seriously. I think we'll have to make some tweaks to, and one of them, for example, is like, again, this tension. And any organization like ours will put ourselves under a lot of pressure to deliver, and like the number one reason folks have said that, like, hey, they haven't really got up to speed with the tools is they just feel like they don't have time. So another thing that we've tried to make very clear to people and their managers that this is important. You can take time. Many projects can happen a little later. And optimistically, the payback here is that you'll deliver them faster anyway. So taking the time, I think, is important. But beyond all those things, I think the fundamental challenge is like this is messy, and we're kind of exploring the edges of this thing, and it forces you to kind of unlearn or relearn how you do things, which is hard to do under pressure.
Yeah, so basically you're saying making things feel safe for engineers to try in terms of spending a little bit more time here and there. It's not an issue. It's important that we get on this and we figure this out, even if it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, and like, yes, in general, and then also like one of the pockets of success we've had, which like is kind of like there's certain types of work that you do that is like somewhat you end up doing the same thing or very similar things again and again. So like an example with Fin is it will operate on any support platform, and conceptually they're all kind of the same. They like handle customers and conversations, but their data models and APIs and all that sort of stuff is different.
Yeah.
So like a type of pattern that has worked well for us is, and like, ironically, this is just sort of good software design anyways, but is when you're rushing yourself, sometimes you don't always take the time to do this well. But by figuring out the right abstractions, you kind of you create the conditions for really like leveraging the strengths of LLMs and whatnot to, so you have a strong opinion about the thing you're trying to do, a shape it must adhere to, and you've learned from doing it 2 or 3 times that, hey, this is all the stuff we need to figure out. Again, LLMs are great at reading and understanding docs and APIs and all that sort of stuff. So you can sort of shape your approach to problem solving around the strengths of the tool. And that's worked pretty well as well.
Yeah, that's something I'm hearing. That, I mean, we started using these tools by thinking we have to figure out how to work well with LLMs, but then more and more we discover it's the case that what's good for people, for humans, it's actually also good for LLMs. Right. So good documentation, good abstractions, good like low coupling, what makes things easier to be understood by humans, it seems like makes them also easier to be understood by LLMs.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Yeah, another like interesting thing I've been thinking about is just, and again, it relates to this: how does a whole org, a whole team learn how to work in a different way? And I'm kind of reflecting on sort of code review has been a pretty good practice, I think, generally in software engineering. Superficially, like what it does is, it's a safety net that ensures that collectively the code that we ship is of high quality and
Yeah.
whatnot. But like implicitly, what you're also doing is in a pre-AI world, that's like there's a a machine or a system that creates that code, which is all the humans, and a code review process is actually yes, on one hand, safeguarding the output, but really it's also trying to tune the system of humans. It's like giving, training
Yes.
them so that
Yes.
next time they make a change like this will be better. And I don't think we as an industry have figured out how to apply that model to our use of AI. And specifically, like when we have a pull request and someone is code reviewing it, yes, it's important to like make sure we don't ship junk. The output matters, but the long-term durable benefit of the process ought to be, improving our tool use and our guidance of AI. So like I've been trying to figure this out myself or encourage it, but like what if every pull request was sort of prompted around this idea of, hey, what would have helped me be more successful with AI here? Or like questions like that, or what, like, hey, you're giving me feedback on my use of this pattern in the code. Let's, as part of this pull request, make a patch to the guide, like the Claude MD or whatever else. And that would be a far more valuable side effect of the pull request process than fixing the line of code. Like, and I don't know, I'm sure there's many smarter ideas, but I think organizations will need to figure out ways to like kind of accelerate the learning of our tool use and guidance of tools is kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I think it's the version for AI of the knowledge sharing effect that we get through code reviews when there are human reviewers involved. And I think that the jury is still pretty much out on this, and we still don't know. There is a lot of talk these days about context engineering and figuring out how to pass the right context to AI, which is not just the code base, right? It might be documentation, might be the linear tickets, the Slack chats, and whatnot. And so I guess a lot of this feedback loop involves writing documentation and context that is better for AI. And this context might be docs about the system or system prompts, or we still don't know probably. But I think it's about passing the right context rather than making the models necessarily that smarter. I don't know if you feel that's the case.
Yeah, like on that sort of general observation that making the models smarter versus context or prompt engineering, like our experience with building Fin has been like on our website we have this chart which is our like average resolution rate monthly since inception, and for sure there have been some like breakthrough model changes in that time period, like with Anthropic's models and OpenAI's models, various things. But we've consistently, like from maybe about 2.5 years ago, when we launched Fin, we were like it was 23% on average, and like obviously we had some like spikes high above that, but that was groundbreaking at the time. It's now like 65%, almost 3x. And
wow.
I can attribute, like I think I could directly attribute like maybe 5 or 10 percentage points of that to external model updates or whatever, and the rest is all like the system and architecture and context and prompting and like relentless testing of like different experiments to eke out that performance. So that sort of matches with my like statement that even though these tools, these LLMs, are getting better and better over time, if you just snapshot it today, I think we're only scratching the surface of what we can do. And like, Fin's kind of journey on res rate is a example of like how much optimization you can get out of your usage by whether it's context or prompts or architecture around it.
Yeah. So when you're building Fin, what is the highest value part of that kind of technology that you're building that is not the models itself? I mean, do you think it's the RAG pipelines? It's the way you get context, the thing that makes it, the secret sauce that allowed you to improve that much in so little time?
I think it's all those things. It's like like you can imagine what the architecture might be,
Yeah.
and there's a RAG element to it. There's all the how we manage all the knowledge side of things, and there's a low level architecture of all these different components and specialized models that do different parts, and all of them have different maybe prompts, etc. And I think, like, my take is that it's your ability to robustly experiment and iterate that is the secret sauce almost. Or like, and
Yeah.
that's not like um many people can learn to do that. It requires
Yeah.
a lot of discipline, it requires a lot of volume, and then all of the elements of the architecture can be optimized. And like I think oddly enough, we have an event in a couple of weeks where we'll talk more about this. And we're sharing an
Yeah.
event with Cognition and Harvey, just talking about like building frontier AI products and all the internals of it.
Yeah.
So but my take is that, and there's analogous to like the engineer productivity stuff.
Yeah.
It's your ability to tune the system that is
Yeah.
your strength, really.
And I think it's a great answer because it's not trivial at all, especially when it comes to working on these systems which are not deterministic, which have a very large, surface area of use cases and queries and questions they can get. So how do you evaluate whether you're actually, I mean, if you want to move fast, you have to have a good feedback loop to understand that you're
Yeah.
actually improving, right? So how do you evaluate that the system is actually getting better when you're working on something before you ship it or right after you ship it and so on?
Like at a high level, there's just a lot of different layers of testing, like offline testing, back testing. With does this at least behave as well as prior
Yeah.
prior versions? And then because there's got to be some very high threshold what you will then expose to like a live A/B test, and then live A/B tests will often tell you some of the second order impacts that you might not have necessarily anticipated or could necessarily measure ahead of time. So it's kind of just that like robust system that like all this is about confidence to move fast, and each step is sort of optimized around
Yeah.
and obviously you have to take it very seriously with real usage. This is not a toy. This is real businesses. This isn't like I don't know, generating videos or games or something. It's real businesses. You can't really make mistakes. And early days, Fin, the biggest amount of our energy went into like hallucinations and doing everything we can to make sure, like, we don't care if we can't answer, but let's not make up garbage. Like that was
Yeah.
the thing to optimize for.
Yeah, yeah, makes totally sense. So I want to close with a final question. That is, I mean, you're working really at the forefront of things when it comes to AI, both on the product side, so what we can build with AI, and also when it comes to technology, because there is so much we still have to figure out, as we have said already in this chat. So if you had to point to one big challenge that is the one that to you it's the biggest one you have to face and the one that you have to absolutely get right as a CTO, what that would be for Intercom and or for Fin?
Well, like, I think the biggest challenge that we faced for Intercom was, and maybe it's not quite getting to your question, but like the default path for Intercom as this, generative AI kind of era came upon was that we would fail. Like we would be like beaten by like many of the brilliant new startups that are born in this era. So the challenge we really had to overcome from both a strategy and how we organize, there's about 1,000 people in Intercom, how we organize ourselves required like huge upheaval that I don't think most companies can even imagine, let alone pull off. So, I don't know how to generalize that, but like, I really think that if any company haven't already like figured out like what, how does this change, this technology change how they see the future of their industry or their product space. If they haven't figured that out, then they're probably in trouble. And if they are taking kind of a gently approach, they're probably in trouble. So I just encourage, like, when you accept that if you do nothing, things are going to go bad, it's good motivation to like. Now, it can be quite hard to do that, and it require. In our case, I think it really helped that our CEO was had the conviction and belief to do that, and I think it's very, very hard for many CEOs to make what at the time at least probably felt like this crazy bet. So yeah, that's kind of where that's probably the highest order thing that companies need to get right is like,
I love this answer because I think, as a founder, as a C-level, the highest leverage thing you can do is set the framing, set the tone, and if you and it's important that people understand this is existential, right? And it's it's your job to pass that message. And so I love that answer, which is, I think it's very fitting.
And the existential thing's true too for like the productivity side. Like, it's cool. We've had some really great interns come in, and it's just always refreshing to see how like someone who's by default in a learning headspace, how quickly they're learning and adapting to the tools. And perhaps you and I would be a bit more clumsy, but it's really. But like, if folks don't feel up to trying to lean into that at Intercom, it's not like we're the only company that will want to require that over time. The industry it's just inevitable that if there is higher levels of impact here, the industry will demand it. Just like the industry will demand like product that is leveraging AI as best as it can.
Yeah, it's true, and it's funny that you mentioned young engineers because I mean, in the industry there is all this talk that AI is threatening junior engineers the most, but actually, in my experience, I mean, junior engineers are the ones that are usually the most proficient, while it's more dinosaurs and senior engineers like me that have the most trouble, adjusting their workflows, and so we might be more in trouble. I don't know, but good junior engineers, I mean, I should say they're pretty good at this.
Yeah, like the kind of employee value prop we have is like in many cases of this. If you have the right environment that encourages this, junior engineers are just like these super high growth assets. Like they can prove. So if providing you can couple them with like brilliant engineers with a lot of experience who want them to thrive, a really great graduate engineer or something is like gold dust, and they rocket up through the levels of proficiency so quickly.
I love hearing this because there's a lot of doom talk that I don't think it's the right way of seeing it, and so it's very refreshing to hear that.
It's probably how all these industries work. Like the pre-spreadsheets, the accountants doing all this stuff by hand or whatever probably thought that, you know, they're set for life. And then,
Yes.
you know, the people who were fast to learn how to use spreadsheets actually took their jobs, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes, it's true. So thank you again. Thank you so much, Darragh, for coming to the show today.
Yeah, no worries. Fun chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found this chat valuable, you can subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Also, please consider giving us a rating or leaving a review, as that really helps other listeners find the show. You can find all past episodes and learn more about the show at refactoring.fm. See you in the next episode.